again, just on the point of these hyperscale data centers looking for a lot of land, here in this graph, you can sort of see that we have our major players, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, and Apple. And ultimately, like the current power that's in purple, this is looking to almost be doubled with your planned power that's coming in here. And these major players are expanding at twice the capacity that already exists for them in hyperscale data centers. So that's something that's really growing really, really fast. The image to the left is these are data centers off of our database. But just to show you, these two data centers are essentially taking most of the boxes. So in blue right here, we have our blue fiber optic lines. So I'm going to try to draw just real quick. So these are our blue fiber optic lines. They're going to transmit over smaller areas. They're going to transmit data over smaller areas, and your purple ones are regional fiber optic lines or long haul fiber optic lines, actually, that are going to do it over a large area of land. So the fact that they're connected to both, super plus. You have your solar farm right here, and you have your substations right here. So this is ticking most of the boxes you essentially need to have a good parcel of land or a spot for a data center development. Just an example, this is also in Richmond, Virginia. So huge hub, a lot of data centers are around the area, but we can get into more of like these examples right here. So just to remove my annotations, there we go. So we have this parcel of land that's available for lease on LandGate's platform, but the reason why we want to showcase it is because, like the data center I showed you before, this is ticking a lot of boxes. This is in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Craig can speak more about how it absolutely the area inflates in price because of the business environment, but this is in High Plains Business Park, which is growing out to be a very important and hot spot for data center development. It is essentially a data center park, a lot of companies. So this yellow little bubble we have here on the bottom, that is a Meta data center. To the right, and not shown in this image, we have a Microsoft data center, and we have a Lunavi planned data center. So a lot of traffic is coming into the area. You can see that we have our long haul and regional fiber optic lines. We have our substations here for electricity, and the red is the transmission line, so where the substations are branching out their power. This parcel of land is a really, really, really good parcel of land. It's super close to all of these areas, and, it's ticking a lot of boxes as far as the importance of how hot it is or how likely it is that it's going to be used for building a data center. But Craig, if you have anything to say about this area, because I know that you know about the pricing and.
Yep. Yeah. Two points to make here is, you notice this is in Wyoming. This is not Virginia. This is not California, Texas. Mehrbano showed a chart earlier on in the presentation where she showed the concentration of data centers across the United States. It does not matter what state you are in. It doesn't matter if you are in a rural area or a more urban area. Data centers are coming, and they will be in your county very soon, if not within the next probably 12 to 16 months, at least the permits and plans for them anyway. They're likely already happening. That's very, very similar to going back 8, 9, 10 years ago, and the conversations we would have with folks is like, okay, Craig, well, this is interesting. I'd like to make money on my property for solar energy, but there's just nothing going on in my area. That changed very quickly. This is the same thing. So it doesn't really, and that's the point I want to make. It doesn't really matter where you're at in the United States. If you have the variables that line up for your piece of property, you have power, access to fiber, and buildable acres, there's going to be interest, and a significant amount of interest there. Second point here is, some of you might be wondering, hey, this is a really nice looking piece of marketing here for this individual's property. How can you get your property to look like this? LandGate does all of this. So this flyer that was put together, this was created by LandGate, by our analysts, by our technical team. The individual whose property this is paying nothing for this whatsoever. They listed their property. We identified it as a high value listing, and we can do that. We don't can do that. We do that for every single resource that's listed on the website. So whenever there's a high value listing for solar energy, wind energy, data centers, oil and gas minerals, whatever it is, we actually put together marketing material for that, and we get that out in front of those specific type of resource companies who are interested in those. So that's another thing that LandGate does for landowners. We do that at no cost. But that is the special thing about our marketplace. That's a big question we get from almost every webinar we do, of landowners coming in and saying, or even real estate professionals coming in and saying, okay, well, I think I have a high value piece of property for whatever the resource is. I only know one or two people in the business. I'm not afraid. I'm kind of afraid I'm not going to get a good deal. That's what makes LandGate's marketplace very nice, is that you don't have to know a lot of folks. It's going to go out into an open marketplace. Everybody who wants to produce those types of properties are going to see that listing, and then there'll be a competitive process. So that's one point I want to make there. But again, just a phenomenal place there in Wyoming, where you never would have thought. This is almost turning into the new Silicon Valley. At least it's powering the Silicon Valley. The reason why, there's a very large coal plant just north of Cheyenne, Wyoming, produces some of the cheapest power in the United States. The coal's coming from Powder River Basin, goes straight into the Laramie River plant, and those big red transmission lines you're seeing there, bringing those very cheap, abundant, reliable electrons straight down to these enormous locations. That little yellow box there, that's $1 billion data center being built by, I believe that's Microsoft's, isn't Mehrbano, and Meta's is across the street. So it's coming in a big way. Make sure you're getting out in front of that. So go ahead, Mehrbano. Go ahead and continue with the presentation.
Yep. So this is our second example that we have for you. Fantastic spot for data center development. Again, super, super close. This is in Texas, super close to your fiber optic lines. So you can see the blue and the pink over there. And then your substation, transmission line. And then if you look slightly behind your substation right there, you also have a redundancy source right there. So again, this data center is ticking a lot of boxes. Texas is a really hot spot. Over the course of 2023, it was the fastest growing market for data centers within the United States, gaining a lot of traction. And something that we'll come to later, that I know that there are a few concerns about land in Texas, but that's something we'll talk about later. Despite it being, hot and arid climate, it's gaining a lot of traction despite that.